8 months ago, I purchased this 2019 Harley Davidson, which weighs 350 kilos or around 728 pounds. Now that's quite a heavy bike, and it scared the daylights out of me. Now, not just riding it, but actually picking it up off the stand. You see, I had a 30-year break from riding when I purchased this Harley Davidson. And today, I want to show you some of the things I did to help build my confidence and be safe while riding out on the road. Hello everyone, my name's Rob and this is Throttle Reborn. And this channel is all about my journey coming back to motorcycling after a 30-year break. Now I did used to ride motorcycles when I was a kid, grew up on a farm, and also had a couple of road bikes. The last bike I had was a Kawasaki 750 Ninja before the Harley Davidson, but that was many years ago. And today we're going to look at my experience jumping on a Harley Davidson after that 30-year break. Now it's also worth pointing out, I am not an instructor by any stretch. I'm just a guy on YouTube, a guy who's enjoying his motorcycle and wanting to be better at riding every single day. So don't take anything I say as instruction, just take it as some maybe tips from someone who's getting back into it. So if that's you, you can take some of those. But if you really want to learn from someone good, go to Robert Simmons on Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle. Now, if you've never been here before, this is my beautiful 2019 Harley Davidson Heritage. And as I said, it's quite a heavy bike. And Harleys are typically pretty intimidating for most riders, especially those coming back to riding. They're generally heavier than most bikes and they intimidate riders, and that includes me. When I first got this bike, I'd had very little experience with a Harley Davidson. Now, while my Ninja was, I think, around 230 kilos, this is an extra 100 kilos heavier. So I was pretty intimidated by this bike, and I was actually a little bit scared to ride it when I first got it. But I'm going to talk to you about the things I've been doing to help me build that confidence. And as of today, the bike no longer intimidates me, but I do respect it, and I do respect its weight. When I first got this bike, I'd ridden one Harley Davidson, which was a 2007 Harley Davidson Deluxe. I test rode that. I was terrified, but I did manage to ride it without having any problems. And then I purchased this bike, not sight unseen as I bought it online, but I'd never actually sat on it or rode it before I purchased it. So I was actually quite intimidated by the size of it. Now, the first thing you're gonna see when you jump on this bike is the tank. Now, when you're not used to this bike, the tank from this view is actually huge. You get used to that. You actually get used to that. But when you first get on it, you think, wow, this bike is massive. But after a while, it just starts feeling pretty normal. But the size of the bike is very imposing for someone who's new to a Harley Davidson. I was pretty intimidated just of the weight of the bike. So what I was doing, sitting in my garage, I'd just sit on it and I'd pick it up off the stand and I'd put it back down. And I'd just do that a few times till I felt comfortable on the bike. You sort of get a feel for how much you can lean it before it's going to fall. And it's actually a pretty easy bike to keep upright. Admittedly, like any Harley Davidson, if you let it lean over too much, it is going to fall over. You're not going to be able to hold it. Now, the second thing I was doing was just pushing it backwards and forwards. I just got used to pushing it, sitting on the bike and feeling the weight. And I would just do this in my garage. And after a little while, I felt pretty comfortable with just pushing it backwards and forwards. Now, the other thing that's really important is how tall are you? For me, I'm actually a pretty short guy. I've got Italian heritage. It's not my fault. Southern Italy. I'm only 5'6". Now with these boots, which have maybe a little bit of a bigger heel, it allows me to have some bent knee, but not a lot. It's quite good on a flat surface, but you do have to be conscious of where you park your bike. Now, when you're only as tall as me, unlike many other people that ride Harley Davidsons that I see on YouTube, which are 6 foot or more, a lot of people, you get to see what it's like for a shorter rider. Now, this is a really good bike for a shorter rider. It's only got a seat height of 26.3 inches, I believe. And I think that's around 663 millimeters. And I believe my inseam is probably around 28, 29 inches. So I don't have a very long inseam. Now, with any new bike, it's important to understand a few key fundamentals. Now, if you've ridden motorbikes before, none of this is going to be new to you. But these are just some of the things that I focused on, especially after watching Robert Simmons from Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle, which were amazing to help me feel a lot more comfortable on the bike. But while you can watch it, it's important to try to practice some of these things. Key thing, understand the friction zone of your clutch. So get familiar with that. Every bike's going to be a bit different. You're going to need to understand how your friction zone feels on your bike. Also, if you're coming off a sport bike onto a Harley Davidson, having your brake forward is going to feel very strange. It doesn't take too long for that to actually start to feel normal, but it's normal to me now, but initially it felt weird having my legs forward on the bike instead of kind of back like you are in a tucked position on a sports bike like a Ninja. The other important factor is your throttle. Now, you need to apply some power when you're using your clutch, and a combination of your clutch, throttle and brake to balance the motorcycle. Now, what I really did struggle with was coming to a stop. I was very unbalanced. I'd be wobbling from side to side. I'd feel like I'm going to tip to the right. I feel like I'm going to tip to the left. Handlebars shaking left to right. And I just had zero confidence as I was riding the bike at slow speed. Once I got up and going, as we all know, it's very easy to ride the bike if you know how to ride. It's simple. Gears, clutch, brake, it's fine. But it's when you get to that needing to stop the bike that you start to feel uncomfortable with the weight. Okay, first thing we're going to do is stops and starts to practice a bit of that taking off and braking. Now, I'm just going to use a parking bay as a stop and start point and see how we go. So the first thing I'm going to do here is stops and starts. Smooth stops and starts from the line to the next line. A little bit wobbly, need a bit more practice. I'll do 2 lines. Turning at the handlebars. No, I'm going to go back around. Not happy with that. That's not good enough. And this is why it's important to practice. I haven't practiced these in a little while, and I can definitely tell it's made a difference. Now, I don't profess to be great at this, but this has definitely helped me a lot. Now, if you're coming up to stop signs and those kind of things, this kind of thing is going to help you a lot when you need to stop and start. I'm definitely a bit rusty and I could use a bit more work, but that was one of the first things that I started working on. Let's look at slow speed riding. Now, what we're trying to do here, as I understand it, is ride at about a walking pace. Now, this is something that's going to be quite common if you get stuck in heavy traffic and you're going to be moving slowly. So what I'm doing is just keeping my foot on the rear brake, having some throttle and just using the clutch, adjusting it for the friction zone. Now the other one that's always been quite challenging is U-turns. I still feel quite uncomfortable when it comes to U-turns. I feel like I can do a U-turn, but it's actually quite wide, and I want to practice on tightening up my U-turns. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to try 4 bays and then 3 bays. I have done 2 bays. I nearly dropped the bike, so I feel like don't jump forward too quickly. Get comfortable with 4 bays, then move to 3 bays, etc. Build up your confidence, build up your skills for that level. Now, primarily in Australia, if you're doing U-turns, you're going to be doing them from left to right, generally, because we ride on the left side of the road. That's what we typically do. So I'm going to go around, come back, go into one of these bays and do 4, which would put me out there, a bit outside that pole. Let's go. Now I don't have any cones here, so I'm going to try to go close to the line. I'm pretty sure it's this one. We'll go up here, trying to steer. I think it's that one there, if I'm right. So I think this is 3 bays. So I believe that's 27 feet. Okay, so I'm pretty comfortable with, I wouldn't say comfortable, but I can do 3 bays. There we go. Now I'm getting more confident with U-turns, but I want to be able to do it in 2 bays. I think I can do it. I am still afraid of dropping the bike, so I don't want to push myself too soon. I'm happy to stick with 3 bays, get used to that, both left and right. Now if that car wasn't there, I'd try and do figure 8s all the way down the car park here, but just for the sake of demonstration, I'm just going to stick with that. Now the next exercise that I want to practice today is turning left or right from a stop. Now it's easy to overpower your bike and actually end up in the opposite lane that you don't want to be at, and that's something I want to work on today, so let's try that. Get familiar with where your front tyre is. Going to try a right turn, put our blinker on, we'll look left and right. Probably should turn my handlebars, which I feel very uncomfortable with. Let's try. Look where we want to go. Stayed in the line, which is good. We'll try the left turn. Looking for traffic, blinker on. Make sure there's no one coming behind us here. Inside the line. It's good. I still feel nervous though. Alright, let's try a right turn. Let's try turning the handlebars. It just feels weird when you're doing this with your handlebars turned. It just feels very uncomfortable. But how you're going to get comfortable is do it. Or more comfortable. Oh, I just feel terrible. Can do it, but it feels very awkward. But it's important because you don't want to end up in someone else's lane. Try left turn. Make sure no one's coming. Okay, so there we have it. You have an idea now of what I've been doing in the past 8 months to get more comfortable on the bike. Now, I've watched countless videos from Moto Jitsu, Robert Simmons, Ride Like a Pro, all to do with riding heavier Harley Davidsons. Now, I can tell you I feel much more comfortable on the bike today than I ever did when I got it. Now, when I got this bike, I was intimidated. I would ride it close to home. I had a lot of fear about dropping it. Now, I still have some of those fears. I still have a long way to go. I want to do more riding training, and I want to continue to do some of these slow speed maneuvers, like the stops and starts. Could definitely do it with a bit more work. But if you do these things and you are intimidated by your motorbike and you don't want to ride it, try some of these things. Start with friction zone, throttle. Make sure you give it enough throttle with the friction zone and brake. It's going to take a bit of coordination, but you can do it. I have done it. I'm definitely feeling a lot better. I'm not perfect, but I'm definitely feeling much more comfortable on the bike. Now, doing this regularly means I'm going to feel more confident and more able to handle issues when they arise. So there you have it, everyone. How I've come from being very intimidated by my bike to being able to ride it, do some U-turns, do some stops and starts, just feeling comfortable on the bike, left and right turns at a stop. All of those things are you're going to use a lot when you're riding. So for me, they're really important to practice and keep practicing and try to get better at them. Now, I don't profess to be a great rider. I just think I'm a very average rider riding his bike, and I'm just trying to improve my own skills. I'm not trying to be the best. I just want to be the best that I can be. So I hope this video has helped you and given you some things to think about. Like I said, if you are intimidated by a big bike like a Harley Davidson or something similar, go and watch some of those professional instructors. Robert Simmons has been amazing for me. I feel like he explains things really clearly and gives great demonstrations. That is going to be the end of this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to follow me on my journey on my 2019 Harley Davidson heritage. Stay safe, everyone, and we'll see you all on the next one.